Helping our family leave Cuba during this crisis is a major goal for us. We already got our mothers out, one to Spain, the other to Brazil. Today we'll share all the details. Hi everyone, how are you? And welcome back to my channel. I'm Anita, I'm Cuban, but I live in Galicia, Spain. So as you could see, I was recently in Cuba and I went for a special reason, which is that my mom managed to leave Cuba. She went to Brazil. She didn't come to Spain and everyone kept asking me, Anita, why didn't you bring your mom to Spain? Today I'm going to tell you a little more about this, about why they chose Brazil and many more details about this whole process. But I won't be alone, I'll be with my friend Gretel because my friend Gretel, right at the same time my mom managed to leave Cuba. Gretel's mom also left Cuba. But well, she was able to bring her mom to Spain. So a comment I've seen is like, Anita, why couldn't your mom come to Spain but Gretel's mom could? You tend to compare without knowing people's situations, without knowing that everyone has a different situation. Not everyone can do things so easily. Maybe everything takes a lot of sacrifice and it's also a matter of paperwork and things that not everyone can do so easily. It's just like that. Subscribe, like, and all those important things, and let's start the video. Here's Gretel who, as you saw on her channel, also brought her mom from Cuba. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for inviting me to my dear Anita Mateo's channel.
Well, let's take a walk on this beautiful sunny day here in the city of La Coruña and talk to you about what route we took and how we managed to get our moms out of Cuba, how we felt, how much it all cost us. Why couldn't my mom come to Spain but Gretel's mom could? So let's get started. Well, Gretel, question number one that people are probably wondering, how did you manage to get your mom out of Cuba to Spain? Why could your mom come to Spain but mine couldn't? Explain your process. First,
It's not the same case. No one ever emigrates in the same way, but in my case, we are descendants of Spaniards. My family, on my mother's side, is descended from Spaniards from the province of Lugo, here in Galicia. And why did they pass a law called the Democratic Memory Law, which allows people who are descended from Spaniards to take advantage of that law and obtain Spanish citizenship? So, of course, that also took many years because everything is a bit slow. She couldn't come to Spain and neither could I, right? Spanish in order to be able to come here to Spain. That's why people might wonder why one person can and the other can't, because of course everyone is equal. In the case of Anita's mom, she also has Spanish family and also started that process, but it was like let's say it was even slower. The process was slower, but for Anita's mother it was even slower. Because of the terrible situation in Cuba, people want to leave for anywhere. Brazil, China, Hong Kong, everyone wants to emigrate. In my case, my mom could go to Spain, but I couldn't. If I had gone, it might have been harder since I might have needed to send my mother an invitation letter or seek other options or resources to bring her from Cuba to Spain, which is much harder. But having the Spanish citizenship obtained through the Democratic Memory Law, everything has been much easier.
in the case of my family, we also have this option. Regarding Spanish descent, many Cubans actually have it, but as you know, Cuba was once Spain. At some point, many people from Spain went there and they passed this democratic memory law. My grandmother was already Spanish and my mom was also able to do this paperwork. Now, what happens is that when you send the documents to the embassy, do you have to send supporting documents? My mom made a mistake when she sent them, so they were denied and she had to start the process over. That meant starting from scratch, which involved almost another year of waiting. Even today, my mom still doesn't have the documents. She doesn't have anything. She already went to the embassy and did the interview, but nothing has arrived. Greta's mom got hers much faster. And as you know, the situation in Cuba right now is extremely complicated. At the time I'm recording this video, there are fires happening, extreme blackouts, there's no food, there's nothing. And my mom literally one day she told me, Anna, Lori, because she calls me Lori, do we have to leave or are we going to die here? And I said, Mom, but aren't you coming to Spain? She said it could be 2 or 3 years before she can come to Spain since my mom isn't alone. For example, Greta's mom was alone and could just come. My mom has a husband, and then she had to do the paperwork for him, and she has 3 children, one of them a minor, who she also had to do the paperwork for, and do the paperwork for all those people. To come together as a family, it was going to take maybe 2 or 3 more years. So they made the decision to go to Brazil. So my mom made that decision to go to Brazil. They gathered the money. I helped them too. In part, it's a journey that costs a lot of money, but they managed to go together as a family. In the end, they're out of Cuba, and that's better than being in Cuba, whether it's China, Brazil, or Peru, honestly. So, one thing you all need to realize is not to judge and not to be comparing, because not everyone has the same situation and not everyone can do things the same way. The world doesn't work like that, and especially not Cuba. My mom's journey was a very complicated one. They had a really hard time.
They were studied and had their money stolen. Yes,
They spent many hours on the bus, traveling almost 3 days. They were scammed, even just a little bit, you could say. It's not exactly that they were scammed, but they were promised a direct flight by plane when they arrived in Boa Vista, all the way to Rio de Janeiro, and that flight never happened. The woman didn't really pay much attention to them, and they had to go by bus and spend 3 days traveling because Brazil is huge. So, for example, my mom's journey was much longer. Yours was just taking a flight, luckily.
mine luckily was just taking a flight. And even so, due to the unpleasant situation in Cuba, now the flights,
They changed the flights, tell me.
yeah, the flights aren't like before, not even in the price or the trip you have to make. Because before, for example, when I moved here 4 years ago, my ticket cost about a little over 300 euros because it was just a one-way ticket. From Havana to Madrid, which is where I used to live before, 300 and something euros. But now, well, now I live in Galicia. I have to get two tickets, one from Havana to Madrid and one from Madrid to Coruña. Even so, there's no fuel because the situation in Cuba keeps getting worse. No fuel, no oil, not even any shame. All flights leaving Cuba right now have to make a stopover. I'm not sure if there are flights now, but when I left, there were. Tomorrow, there might not be any flights in Cuba. You never know. But when my mom left, she had to make a stopover in Puerto Rico, or in the Dominican Republic. No, I think it was in Puerto Rico. No, in the Dominican Republic, A stopover in the Dominican Republic for an hour and 45 minutes to refuel the plane. During that hour and 45 minutes, no one was allowed to get off. Imagine a flight that's already extremely long and exhausting, and then on top of that, having to sit there for another hour just waiting for them to refuel the plane. Fuel so we could make that whole trip again and come here to Spain. I mean, really? Even so, it doesn't compare to the way your mom looked at me. What happened with your mom was even worse.
Of course, but everyone found their own way to do it. And my mom told me if she had to do it again, she would. Because, the first thing she said to me was, oh, well, the food. Obviously, it surprised her, but she was like, there are so many basic services that work well. She was surprised that things actually worked, that transportation worked. And I told her, of course, Mom, it's just that life outside of Cuba in some countries, because there are others that are also a little bad. But let's say normal countries that work, normal compared to Cuba, life outside of Cuba is like that. I mean, just the basics like food, transportation, and electricity all day. That's already like heaven for them and for us too when we arrived.
When we arrived, we were just as surprised as anyone. Now we're more used to living here, but I was really shocked by the food at first. When I connected to my phone, everything moved faster and updated quickly, which often made me feel strange.
Well, look, today in Maria Pita Square, in the city of Coruña, the sun is out and people from Galicia really enjoy it because here people make the most of it. We've had so many rainy days that we were already feeling down. Well, let's sit down, have something to drink, and keep talking. And one of the things about us when we emigrate, at least for Cubans, is that we don't emigrate for pleasure, we emigrate out of necessity. And part of that is also being able to help our family, although generally it's not mandatory for you to have to support or help your parents. We Cubans do this because of our country's situation. And that's why one of the things we do to avoid having to keep sending money and living like that is, well, let's try to bring our family members over too, whoever we can bring. Because not everyone can. There are people who can't because they don't have a way to do it. Because to come to Spain, you need a visa or to have some kind of Spanish nationality, and there are many people who don't have that. Another way is to emigrate illegally by crossing the border, but that costs much more. Some people can't afford it either and have no options. For example,
Honestly, how did you come here?
I came as a tourist and you came to study.
I came to study and we were lucky that we were approved, but there are many people, for example, even when I was studying at the school I left Cuba from, there were many people who also applied and were denied, so we were lucky to be approved to leave Cuba because they could have denied us.
Because do you know what the problem is? The issue was proving where the money came from so you could leave. We had the justification in order because we had real income from our channels. There are people who unfortunately can't and borrow the money and then they have no way to justify that income. And that leads to the embassy denying you because that income is suspicious. I mean, where did you get it from? And a lot of people were denied for that reason and also for not having something that ties you to Cuba, maybe owning a house or something like that.
That's why I'm grateful every day for dedicating myself to social media when others thought it was silly, but it really isn't. Everything we have today is thanks to social media.
And so, for example, our parents,
The
the only way they have, for example, I managed to get my mom to find a way to leave. That way I supported her, but for example, my father, I have no way to get him out because I'm not a Spanish citizen. I can't even invite him yet. I can't do any of that.
But how sad it is that your only concern in life is first to leave the country and then to emigrate to another country and then to get your family out of Cuba. How sad that our whole life is built around that.
But well, at least we're happy that our mothers are already here. I'm super happy with my mom. I'm really happy because my mom is already working and feels so motivated and happy. She told me she's working as a kitchen assistant in a restaurant, and she told me that she hadn't worked like this in Cuba for many years because out here you have to work a lot. And so, but I feel so happy, so motivated because just the motivation of having the basic things and knowing that you're going to earn money that's enough to live on, it's like it motivates her and she feels super happy.
All right, beautiful Viviana, a kiss for you. I'm a fan of Viviana, she knows it.
And well, Greta didn't just bring her mother out. First of all, she brought the girls out, which was another huge thing because you were here alone at first.
When I arrived, many people supported me, but I also faced a wave of hate with questions like, why leave Cuba, why you and not someone else, and so on. If I had had the chance to live with my daughters, of course I would have done it, but the only way I found to leave was just for myself, unfortunately, and I spent over a year here feeling really bad. Anita met me back then, super depressed and very sad, and I had a really hard time that I don't even want to remember, but it was totally worth the effort, it was totally worth it. Today, let's talk in the present. My daughters live in Spain, my daughters live in Galicia, they even speak a little Galician, they've changed, I'm giving them a better future and education, which is what I wanted, and the effort I made was worth it.
It's just that people, for example, I also received a lot of criticism, like, why don't you bring your family out, things like that. You see us on the screen, but you don't know everything we're doing in our daily lives, right? It's true that we travel and have fun, but you don't see all the plans we make to help or bring out our family when we get home because we only talk about the basics. For example, issues like Brazil or the Spanish papers, my family has dealt with these for years, just like you.
My mom has waited years for Spanish citizenship.
I keep making videos here and everyone keeps asking, Anita, why don't you bring your family? Do you really think I'm here enjoying life without thinking about how to get my family out?
Nope. No.
No. No. And also, leaving Cuba isn't something where people can just get on a plane and leave, like maybe in other countries where they give you a visa. I think Venezuela now gives people a tourist visa more easily. I'm not sure.
Of course, leaving Cuba is a real challenge for Cubans. I feel like Cuba can't be compared, first of all, with any other country in the world, and second, in other countries, people have it much easier even when it comes to emigrating. There are so many Venezuelans and Colombians who just apply for a visa, buy a ticket, and leave just like that. In Cuba, you have to prove, just imagine what you have, what you don't have, and even then
You have to prove you have money, you have to prove you have a house, a motorcycle, a car. You have to prove so many things that I think it's much harder for us than in many other countries. Maybe not, I don't really know the true situation in other countries because I haven't lived it, but I have asked people from Venezuela, how did you get here? Do they give you a tourist visa? Yes, or I have Spanish papers or something similar, so maybe it's faster and easier than it is for us.
Everyone we've met from Venezuela and Colombia has emigrated much more easily than we have. For Cubans, leaving the country is always a struggle and a problem, and it's a dream for us to do so. Your dream is always to leave the country. That's sad, isn't it?
So Gretel, how do you feel now? What's your next plan? Or simply, how do you feel now that your mom is here with you?
Right now, I feel like I've closed the chapter. I feel satisfied because I've achieved all the things I set out to do back when I was at home one day, not knowing how I was going to leave Cuba. I'll never forget being in my kitchen, chain smoking, and saying I had to leave Cuba. I don't know how I'm going to do it because I don't have any money, I don't have anything, but I'm going to save up and I'm going to leave Cuba because I have to get my daughters out of here. After I got my daughters out, I said, well, now my plan and my goal is to get my mother out of Cuba. A couple more years went by, but I did it. And now my goal is, well, for my mother to grow old here and live out the rest of her life, which will be many more years, with dignity and prosperity, a good life that every human being deserves. And besides that, well, at some point I hope the Cuban dictatorship falls so I can go back to my home someday because I have a house in Cuba. Well, it's not my house, it's my mom's house, but that house is still there in Havana, my house is there, and that house is ours. And And at some point, we'll have to think about what to do with that house, whether to sell it or rent it out, maybe turn it into a hostel. Take action, since my house is the only property we have in Cuba. The plan is to decide what to do with it in the future. See what my mother decides, sell it, start a business, something. I also hope to visit my country someday when it's free, which I'd really like.
Well, in my specific case, I still have a lot to achieve. It has taken me much longer because I came in a different situation as well, and my family's paperwork has taken much longer. My mom left with my siblings. I don't know what their plans are because they are, well, independent adults. I don't know if in the future they might want to come to Spain or stay in Brazil. They will make that decision depending on how things go for them in Brazil. I'm not going to interfere in that, honestly. If they can't come to Spain or whatever happens, I already have a new country to visit.
Take me with you.
Go to Brazil since they're actually close to Rio de Janeiro. And yes, I still have my sister and my nephews. I still have a lot of family left. Some of my family are also working on getting Spanish papers. My sister has to wait for my mom to get her papers so that then she can get hers, and besides, she has kids. My sister's process may take a while, which makes me sad because I want to help her. I was just in Cuba recently and I saw her very depressed, very sad. That situation made me feel bad, so I tried to speed things up. I'll see what I can do, but I don't discuss those things here. But yes, I am looking for ways, I don't know. Because I'm very sad and I don't know, I'm just very...
Have you seen what's happening right now?
Of course, they told me about it, so I tried to help by sending them an EcoFlow for electricity. But even so, no matter how much help you send, the situation in the country is so deplorable, so bad that you can't live there with dignity. You just can't. So I'll see what I do. Honestly, I still have much to accomplish.
But you will accomplish them?
I hope that with time, I'll be able to do everything little by little. And well, Greta. Let's go pick up the girls from school now then, yes.
I'm very happy.
What has surprised your mom most about Spain?
Oh, honey, everything. Look, my mom came not just surprised, but with all kinds of hang-ups. One simple hang-up is this. Since in Cuba they don't have internet and have to save mobile data, my mom disconnects the house Wi-Fi.
She disconnects it. The mobile one?
And I'm like, why do you turn off the internet?
I had that problem too. I used to turn it off until Daimi told me not to anymore.
Mano, pray you don't run out of internet here. My poor thing. Oh my God. Even bread surprises her. She asked why the bread looked like this, comparing it to Galician bread, really white and covered in flour, just like this one.
Different types of bread, everything? Of course. My mom told me the other day there are so many types of meat, so many types of things. We're going to eat with some friends who invited us to something called churrasco. Oh, how delicious. And like, Mom, churrasco, this is typical here too, you know? And she says, oh yes, it's so good, so many types of meat and all that. It's like food is the first thing that impresses you.
And my mom, we recently went to do, right here is where we waited in line, well, not a line, but the appointment to register. And everything was so fast that she was stunned. She was walking down the street in a daze. And I told her, that's it, we're done with the appointment, but there was no one there.
Here things take time, but they're still faster than in Cuba.
They're much faster. We finished everything in one day.
And, well, another thing we're also going to talk about is how much the process cost, more or less. How much did Mom's ticket cost?
More or less.
From Cuba to Spain? From Cuba?
Let's see, from Havana to Madrid, since he later had to get one from Coruña to Madrid.
No, the direct flight to Spain.
The direct flight was about 700 or 800 euros, I think.
It's expensive.
Of course, really expensive.
Because I've made the trip for 500 euros. And, well, the trip to Brazil, which my mom paid for, cost almost $3,000. $3,000.
It's a stab in the heart.
Damn. Well, my mom sold her house to be able to pay for that, of course. She was left with nothing in Cuba to be able to do that. I helped her too, but I couldn't give her all the money since there are 5 people. But I tried to support her too in doing this. And it was a lot of money.
A whole lot?
But, well, I think the sacrifice is worth it in the end. The way they're living, and now they'll be able to start their lives from scratch more easily in a free country. And one thing is that maybe we were the brave ones in the family for making the decision to leave, because my mom had the chance to leave when she was young and she didn't do it out of fear.
My mom had the opportunity to get not citizenship, but years ago there was a law similar to the grandchildren law.
The grandchildren?
The law for grandchildren and great-grandchildren, she had the chance to use it but never did. Maybe out of fear of emigrating or the unknown. I asked why she didn't do the paperwork and she said, "Where would we go, Greta, if I have no money?" I replied,
"Oh, my mom told me the same thing." Yes, I told her.
"I'm young now, but when I grow up, I'll work and we'll have money, but what's the point if we don't have money to leave?"
Of course, so we had to leave that area and be the ones to emigrate, to be brave, to face it. And actually later when I emigrated and all that, my mom was the one who told me the truth. She said back in the 90s I could have emigrated and I didn't.
Of course, out of fear. We did it, but with fear?
I acted out of fear since staying in Cuba was even scarier.
Living in Cuba was worse. I couldn't stay there with my daughters struggling for food, school, and dealing with blackouts. I still didn't know how things were today. I was unwell and couldn't keep living that way. I didn't care about myself anymore, but once you have kids, you think more about them than yourself. I didn't want my daughters to grow up seeing that.
Well, that's it. I hope you liked this video, that you found it entertaining, informative, and all those things. We answered and hopefully cleared up some questions about our life in Galicia for our followers. And if you're new here and you don't follow us yet, follow us to learn about 2 Cuban women living in Spain in Galicia. She's Greta, I'm Anita. Subscribe and give us a like.
And it's a coincidence that our mothers left around the same time. Exactly. And those are just some of life's coincidences.
Really? Sending you a big kiss. Bye. Bye.
Subscribe.